A late-night comedy show, a canceled guest, and suddenly accusations of government censorship exploding across American media. Stephen Colbert claims CBS lawyers blocked the Texas Democrat from appearing on his show, blaming pressure from the Trump administration and the Federal Communications Commission. Within hours, the story ignites a firestorm. Authoritarianism is here. Free speech is under attack. The government is silencing critics. But then the facts begin to surface, and they tell a very different story. This wasn't censorship. This wasn't government overreach. This was a decades-old election law designed to protect fairness, and a candidate who turned it into a viral fundraising goldmine, raising $2.5 million in just 24 hours. Tonight, we're cutting through the noise, the outrage, and the manufactured controversy to reveal what really happened and why the entire media ecosystem fell for it. This is the anatomy of a modern political hoax. It began on a seemingly ordinary evening on CBS. Stephen Colbert, host of The Late Show, took to his stage and made a stunning announcement. Texas State Representative James Talarico was supposed to be his guest that night, but CBS lawyers had intervened. According to Colbert, he was told in no uncertain terms by the network's legal team that Talarico could not appear on the broadcast. Colbert framed this as an act of corporate cowardice, accusing CBS of caving to what he called bullies in the Trump administration. He pointed directly at FCC Chairman Brendan Carr as the chief enforcer behind this alleged silencing. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Media outlets across the spectrum ran with the narrative. The Trump administration was weaponizing federal agencies to silence political opposition. Commentators declared this the hallmark of authoritarianism, targeting journalists, comedians, and dissenting voices. Shouting, one analyst stated on air, "The first thing authoritarian regimes do is get rid of media, target journalists and comedians and artists that criticize them." The story became a full-blown crisis narrative within hours. CBS quickly issued a clarification. The network denied any censorship or direct pressure from the FCC or the Trump administration. Instead, CBS stated that its legal team had simply provided guidance to the show, airing an interview with James Talarico, a declared candidate in a Democratic primary race, could trigger the FCC's equal time rule. This rule, established by Congress in the 1950s, requires broadcasters to provide equal airtime to all candidates in a political race if they give airtime to one. CBS indicated that if Colbert interviewed Talarico, the network might be required to offer equal time to his opponent, Representative Jasmine Crockett, who is also running in the same Democratic primary. But Colbert stuck to his narrative. He maintained that CBS had blocked the interview and that the network had capitulated to political intimidation. The story continued to spread, amplified by sympathetic media outlets and social media platforms. The outrage machine was in full motion. Exhales sharply, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr appeared exclusively on a primetime news program to set the record straight. His response was direct and unambiguous. This was Democrat-on-Democrat violence. Carr explained that the FCC had not contacted CBS, had not pressured the network, and had not attempted to block any interview. The situation, he clarified, was entirely internal to CBS, a legal decision made by the network's own attorneys based on existing broadcast law. Chairman Carr provided critical context. The equal time rule is not a new or obscure regulation. It has been federal law for decades, designed to prevent broadcast networks from using their licenses to favor certain political candidates over others during election seasons. The rule does not prohibit interviews with political candidates. It simply requires that if a broadcaster gives airtime to one candidate in a race, equal opportunity must be provided to opposing candidates. In this case, if Colbert interviewed James Talarico, CBS would have been obligated to offer comparable airtime to Jasmine Crockett. Carr emphasized, broadcasters have a unique right and privilege, a license, and one thing they have to do is comply with the equal time rules. He pointed out that complying with the rule would have meant more airtime for more Democrats to say whatever they wanted. The equal time rule at its core is about stopping legacy media from picking winners and losers in elections so that the American people can decide. One of the most striking ironies in this entire controversy is that the equal time rule, the very regulation that supposedly represents government overreach, was actually designed to protect Jasmine Crockett's right to equal media access. Curious Crockett herself weighed in, confirming that CBS had not attempted to censor anyone. Instead, the network simply didn't want to trigger the equal time requirement, which would have obligated them to give her airtime as well. Hey, wanted. The equal time rule at its core is about stopping legacy media from picking winners and losers in elections so that the American people can decide. One of the most striking ironies in this entire controversy is that the equal time rule, the very regulation that supposedly represents government overreach, was actually designed to protect Jasmine Crockett's right to equal media access. Curious Crockett herself weighed in, confirming that CBS had not attempted to censor anyone. Instead, the network simply didn't want to trigger the equal time requirement, which would have obligated them to give her airtime as well. Chairman Carr did not mince words. I think this was the plan. It was designed to get clicks. It reminds me of the meme where someone puts a stick in the front spoke of the bicycle wheel, falls to the ground, and claims victim. He argued that Talarico leveraged the story to gain a leg up on his political opposition in the Democratic primary, knowing full well that legacy media outlets would run with a narrative of government censorship without fully vetting the facts. And run with it they did. Major news networks, cable commentators, and social media influencers amplified the story as evidence of authoritarian overreach. Even after the facts emerged contradicting the initial claims, many in the media doubled down, not by admitting error, but by shifting blame. As Carr noted, when the facts came out and showed that what he said was false, the media turned around and said, "Well, it's Trump's fault that we fell for the hoax in the first place. You can't make this stuff up." This controversy did not occur in a vacuum. Chairman Carr revealed that the FCC is also conducting enforcement proceedings involving ABC's The View. The issue centers on whether The View qualifies as bona fide news programming under FCC regulations. This designation matters because bona fide news programs are exempt from the equal time rule. They can interview political candidates without triggering equal time obligations. Disney, which owns ABC, has asserted that The View is bona fide news. However, the FCC has determined that Disney has not adequately established this claim. Carr stated, "We have started enforcement proceedings taking a look at that and again holding broadcasters accountable." This investigation underscores the FCC's commitment to enforcing existing broadcast regulations uniformly, regardless of the political leanings of the network or program. Critics of Chairman Carr and the Trump administration have framed this enforcement activity as authoritarian, an attempt to intimidate media outlets and chill free speech. Carr rejected this characterization entirely, pointing to actions taken during the Biden administration as actual examples of weaponization. He cited instances where Democratic officials and FCC regulators threatened to revoke broadcast licenses for Fox affiliates over content on Fox News Cable, and where cable companies were pressured to drop Fox News entirely. That's weaponization, Carr argued. What we're doing now is simply applying the law on the books in an even-handed manner. People who benefited from a two-tier justice system during the Biden years may feel like this is weaponization, but that doesn't make it so. He emphasized that the equal time rule is about more speech, more information, and empowering viewers, not less. This incident has become a case study in the erosion of media credibility. Chairman Carr noted that President Trump has long called out legacy media for peddling fake news, and this episode provided a vivid illustration. Yesterday, the American people got to see that on full display, Carr said. It's why people have more trust and faith in gas station sushi today than they do in legacy news media. The sequence of events is damning for media institutions. A political candidate makes a claim of censorship. Major news outlets amplify it without full verification. The facts emerge showing the claim was misleading, and instead of correcting course, the media blames external forces for their own credulity. This pattern reinforces public skepticism about the reliability and motives of legacy journalism. This controversy has significant implications for multiple stakeholders. For broadcast networks, it signals that the FCC under Chairman Carr intends to enforce long-standing regulations with rigor. The era of selective or lenient enforcement appears to be over. Networks will need to navigate election coverage with careful attention to equal time requirements, particularly for programs that do not qualify as bona fide news. For political candidates, this episode demonstrates the power of victimhood narratives in modern campaigning. James Talarico's ability to raise millions of dollars in a single day by framing himself as a victim of government censorship, despite the facts not supporting that claim, will likely inspire similar tactics in future races. For the media, this represents yet another blow to public trust. The willingness of major outlets to run with a sensational but thinly sourced story, and then to deflect responsibility when proven wrong, deepens the credibility crisis facing American journalism. And for the public, this incident is a reminder of the importance of critical media literacy. In an age of instant outrage and viral narratives, taking the time to examine the facts before drawing conclusions is more important than ever. In his interview, Chairman Carr delivered a defiant message to legacy media institutions. The days that legacy media broadcasters get to decide what we can say, what we can think, and who we can vote for are over. I think President Trump played a key role in smashing the facade that they still get to decide the narrative here. This declaration encapsulates the broader battle over information, power, and accountability in American public life. Whether one views the FCC's actions as necessary enforcement or government overreach depends largely on one's perspective on the role of regulation, the power of legacy media, and the balance between free speech and fair elections. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this entire saga is its ultimate irony. The FCC chairman accused of authoritarianism for enforcing the equal time rule was, in fact, defending the right of Jasmine Crockett, a Democratic candidate, to equal media access. The rule is not about silencing anyone. It's about ensuring that broadcast platforms don't become kingmakers in political contests. As one commentator observed during the interview, "You are actually fighting for the right of Jasmine Crockett to be heard on CBS. That's really what the rule would require." Chairman Carr confirmed, ironically, that is correct. In the end, this was not a story about censorship, authoritarianism, or government overreach. It was a story about a savvy political candidate, a compliant media ecosystem, and a public desperate for heroes and villains. The truth, as always, was more complicated and far less dramatic than the narrative that went viral. But in today's media landscape, the narrative often matters more than the truth, and that, perhaps, is the most troubling revelation of all.